we're way past time. Vince Redmond is waiting in the wings. He's amazing. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist with vast experience working in the field of autism and working in the field of ABA autism and good quality ABA autism. So we welcome Vince. He's a regular here on the show. Vince, how are you today?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I don't know if you saw my email. I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about COVID fatigue. But I also was going to give a shout out this morning. I feel very passionately, I don't know how everybody else feels, but I put a post on my Facebook yesterday about Simone Biles and how much in support I am of her and how impressed I am with her that she said, I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to prioritize my mental health. And I didn't mention that I was going to bring that up, Vince, but I'm going to guess that you are also a fan of putting your mental health before absolutely everything else. Would I be accurate?
Of course, yes. I mean, obviously, there's a lot behind that story that hasn't come out or is coming out in regards to, a lot of assumptions and accusations going around. But if you're not mentally where you are physically, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You're endangering yourself, you're endangering others. And she was very brave in knowing that the two weren't together. There was a lot of discussion in regards to, she had the twisties, which is a gymnastics term for her spatial awareness was very off. She didn't know where she was. She couldn't control her body in the air. She couldn't control her body coming off the platforms, either the bars or the horse and stuff. And she knew that she wasn't able to do it and made the decision to be able to step back, not only to protect herself, but also to know that she had the bravery to do that is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I really can't. I have very little patience for people who have criticized for dropping out, and because I have a hard time. I think one of the things that has bothered me is that in all of this, people have talked about the pressure of being an athlete and the pressure of trying to repeat your performance and stuff. And I am militantly saying too that this is a young woman that since she last competed on the Olympics came forward. She was one of the last people to come forward and say that she was the victim of that horrible, unspeakable,
right.
I want to say tragedy, but it's much worse than that. The doctor who was molesting all of these young women, and that people were aware of it and covering it up. And she was one of the last people to come forward, and it was traumatic for her to come forward. And if people have not lived through that, of what it is like to go through being the victim of that kind of, not just, the molestation, but having the adults around you covering it up. If you haven't been through that, you should, in my opinion, you should sit down and shut up. But, then marry that with coming out in the public and then having to go through it for people, how stressful that was, then go through a pandemic and now go to the Olympics. I'm stressing out when I go to the grocery store right now because I'm unused to being at the grocery store. If you put me on a plane and sent me to Tokyo, and that's just, to be on a plane someplace. I just think there's a lot of factors here, and people need to grab a whoopee and, send love to her and respect. Because I said what she just did was teach a gazillion young girls that it's okay to prioritize your mental health above everything else, even when other people are uncomfortable and go, but you should do this. The Olympics only comes every 4 years. You should, for your team. No, it's malarkey. We all just got schooled by Simone Biles in the best possible way about mental health. I just want to give her a hug.
Well, I think the biggest thing is we have to stop using the word quit. She didn't quit. She didn't back out or stop because she had better things to do or didn't like her coach or
wasn't tough.
Right? She didn't quit. She stepped back because she knew she was in danger, that she was in danger physically, she was in danger mentally, and she was doing a service to her team by stepping back.
Yes.
giving the other girls the opportunities to who were physically able, mentally able, that to step forward and do this. I mean, again, like we said, the bravery is so deep because it wasn't quitting, and I think that's where you see a lot of the pundits and trolls, and we can go on and on about what's out there in social media land. Um, this wasn't quitting in the sense that people are framing her as, right? She took a brave step to know she wasn't right. Again, this was not mental health wise. We don't know that, like you said, there's tons of pressure, tons of things, and then you're entering a country where it's complete lockdown again. Nobody, in restrictions, she's getting tested every day. And, the amount of pressure that you're feeling as a young individual at that point is amazing on top of it. However, that the spatial awareness in her body and
Yeah.
her body not reacting the way it's supposed to based on her training and her years of experience, you know accumulate all of that together in a 24, I think she is,
Yeah.
4
24.
your mind. It's a very brave step to take care of yourself, take
Yep.
care of your teammates, as well as take care of your team. She did
Yep.
all of that by what she did. She didn't let anybody down. She actually protected herself and her team from injury.
She behaved like a leader, and a really thoughtful leader. I find it remarkable. I'm going to shift just a little bit and ask you if you've been watching Ted Lasso.
I watched last season. I have not seen the first two
Okay.
this season yet.
Well, and there, it's interesting that I'd never heard of the twisties before. I'm not a big sports person, not an athlete, so I didn't realize that, this, that there are high performing athletes who can get locked up and that they have names for it. And there's actually an episode of Ted Lasso where they talk about this thing. And I know that you're a soccer coach. I thought maybe you might be enjoying Ted Lasso.
It is. It's a great show. It was. I love the first season. Again, I haven't. I know they just came out last week. I believe
Yes.
the first two sessions, the first two episodes came back out. So I do look forward to catching on to season 2.
Well, the second episode came out at midnight last night. I know at 9:03 we were trying to watch it, and there were too many people trying to watch it. It was like the internet broke. But I hope to watch it at some point today. If you haven't watched it, I'm in love with this show. I think it's one of the only hopeful things I've seen all year. I've watched a lot of television, and it's one of the only hopeful things. But now I want to take another hard turn.
Real quick, for Ted Lasso, what it does on that show is it shows exactly what sports are intended to be. Right? As a youth soccer coach for 30 plus years, I'm going to date myself. This is what you try to instill in the little girls and little boys as they're growing up is, communication and responsibility and, accountability for yourself and doing what's right for your team, not just for yourself. And all of the family or family morals and pillars of character we try to teach our kids, he's trying to do now with adults. And I think it's a wonderful message for everybody in a very dramatic and comedic way.
Yeah, it's super fun. Super, super fun. But I asked you to talk with us today about COVID fatigue. That I feel like I'm suffering from this, and I think a lot of people are suffering from this, and that it has two sides to it. One is that we're all done. We just all want to be done. It's like, please, could this be done? Like, can we please get back to normal? And enough already, right? Although, here in Los Angeles, 2 days ago, we had the alert go off on our phones telling us we are not done, that numbers are surging and that we need to be more careful than ever. And it just feels like, no, how, just like so exhausting. But I think the other side of it that a friend was talking to me about yesterday, and I went, oh, that's it exactly, is that it's this weird thing where on the one hand, I don't know about you, Vince, but I'm back to the crazy, I got to drive my kid here. We got to be here. This is happening. It's this person's birthday. We're right back on the treadmill. Like the very worst of what was happening before COVID is back in place. We have expectations and places we have to be and all these things, right? And I got to hurry, got to be there now.
Right.
but we also don't have the ability here in Los Angeles anyway to do the things that helped us to make that worthwhile. Like,
Right.
it's birthday, so we got to hurry and do this and get this and whatever, but we can't get together. We can't all, I mean, we're at the point where we're vaccinated, so we can wear masks and we get together with people, but you can't hug everybody. You can't see everybody's face. Like, we're not all the way back, but
No.
we're not all the way where we were before. We're someplace in between, and every day the rules change and everybody's rules are different. And it feels like we're walking on jello. That's
We
what it
are,
feels.
we are in the COVID abyss.
Yes.
For sure. And I think you hit the nail on the head in that there's too many variations between cities, counties, states,
Yeah.
family. There's no one guideline or set of guidelines that are following. I mean, again, we kind of, for those of us who are more scientific, I'll say, right, we're more scientists in the background, we're in the science medical health field, predicted this was going to happen because the politics got involved and all the mandates were dropped to make recalls go away, to make either side, the left, the right, the red, the blue, look better than the other, right? Politics got in the way, but scientifically, you removed all the variables at the same time, which we all know in science, you can't do that because now we don't know what was effective and what wasn't. So as the vaccinations were going, at the heat or the apex of how many they were giving, things were looking good. Obviously, the rates and everything went down. Instead of removing one thing at a time, right? You remove one variable, you measure it, you see how things continue. If it continues to be successful, you can remove another variable, right? So variables meaning you can remove social distancing, you can remove masks,
Yeah.
you can then remove gatherings and the size of gatherings, right? Those types of things. Instead, they removed them all at the same time, and look where we're at, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what worked, what didn't, and now, guess what? They're all back again.
And
Masks,
everybody's blaming everybody else.
limited gatherings. It doesn't matter if you're vaccinated or not, because they don't know what's worked and what isn't working, right? I mean, there's research that just came out yesterday that said those who are vaccinated are probably the biggest carriers. Again, who knows if that's right or wrong? Who know? There's not enough studies because this is all brand new. So and again, how much of this is who versus who? So my point always to my clients is we want to do what you want to do, what you feel is protecting you, right? What has worked? We know what's worked. Social distancing, masks, and vaccinations together, it seemed to greatly reduce. Okay. A lot of people can't get vaccinated for various reasons, some personal, some medical, and that's okay. But the social distancing, the mask wearing, limited gathering, those have worked as well. And if that is what you're taking into your family to be safe, great. Vaccinations, obviously still very widely encouraged and available. Great, but making sure that we're doing something, right? Make sure you're doing what you feel is appropriate for your family to protect your family. We can't worry about who's right on the left, who's right on the right, what mandates are right, and should we not do one or the other, because they change. Today is different than yesterday. Tomorrow will be different than today. We know what works. Be safe, but also continue to be social. Continue to be, now that we're back out with our friends, continue to talk to our friends. We've shown that we can gather in small groups in distance and be safe. We've shown that we can continue to do some of the, like you were saying, some of our regular, activities again, going to parties or going to the store, or, going to a concert. I went to a huge concert, right? But be safe, right? Don't be careless. And again, respect each other. Everyone has different opinions and might have different thoughts of this on another, but this is not arguments. These aren't arguments. Nobody has an answer because we don't know yet, right? Everything is developing as we go along. So empathizing that everybody is going through different versions of this COVID abyss is extremely important. Not only one, because it doesn't make you don't feel alone in it, but also we can support one another through it the best we can in the best ways that we know how.
Yeah, I'm just seeing that. I think because there's so much fatigue that it's bringing up a level of frustration in people that it feels like everybody's taking it out on each other. That
Right.
even within my, group of friends, I've seen this. Even, in our autism community, we're seeing this. That, and all you have to do is turn on the news. I mean, I have a dear friend that has a child who is, I mean, let me think about how many friends I have that are in this category. A child who is immune compromised and under the age of 12 and on the autism spectrum. Like, that describes a great many people that I know. And this is very different for them than it is for somebody who's like, I just want to be able to eat a nice meal in a restaurant. And I'm like, I hear you, but like, everybody needs to be aware that everybody's circumstances aren't the same.
Right.
It's been a little, and I think it's making us all a little cranky. And
And
by
that
that, I mean me.
no, me too. I mean, I mean, people were coming after me the other day about different things, and it's like, where's that frustration coming from? And I think you're exactly right. It's like, let's really pinpoint this. It's not me, it's not you, it's not our neighbor. They're not the issue. The issue is we're done with these limitations. We're done with the wear a mask, don't wear a mask, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Oh, wait, now wear a mask again, right? I mean, we're being told by professionals this is what we need to do. Wait, no, we're not supposed to do that. Oh, wait, yes, you're supposed to. Oh, wait, no, you're not supposed to. And now we're back to yes, you're supposed to. That type of misinformation or that confusion creates frustration with everybody.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we're venting it the right way. Make sure we're having physical exercise. Make sure that we're keeping our mind, kind of like we were talking earlier with Simone, make sure our body and mind are in a good place. If
Yeah.
we're not taking care of ourselves, this frustration is going to pour out in ways that aren't healthy and might actually, disrupt some relationships we have. So we
I'm
want to make sure
seasonally.
we're looking, taking care of ourselves.
And what I started to say before is that, I have one particular friend who has an immune compromised child under the age of 12. Vaccine isn't even an issue right now. There's no possibility under the age of 12, not approved. But at some point it might be approved, and at some point the child will reach the age of 12. And I'm not even 100% sure that the doctor will recommend it because of the child is immune compromised. And what we see in some immune compromised people, they can get the vaccine, but it's not going to be effective, and blah, 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 blah. There's all these considerations, right? And she was saying to me, I can't watch the news anymore because every time I turn on the news, they're calling this the pandemic of the unvaccinated, and there are people blaming it on all the people who are unvaccinated. And she said, well, I understand that they're probably not talking about my kid because my kid can't even. She said, it's just so aversive. It's so, that it's hard not to take it personally. And I just want to remind everybody that there are many, many different factions to this. And if you're frustrated because people aren't getting the vaccine, I also want to remind people that you have the ability, as you were saying, to do what you need to do for you. You get to decide if you want to go to a big public outing. You get to decide if you want to put on a mask. You get to decide if you want to stand 6 feet away from somebody. I just think I think we got to remember that there are people who can't get vaccinated.
Right.
And instead of vilifying everyone, to be mindful about it. Um, I think it's important for everybody to take everybody else's perspective occasionally.
And I think that's missing right now. I think
Yeah.
what you're saying is missing by the governor, by the president, by other people, where they're trying to mandate everybody do something that they might not be able to do. And I think that's where some of the rub starts to come with a lot of people right now, because as you know, especially the populations that we work with, everybody's doing the best they can. I very, very rarely have come across anyone that's just all flippant about it and let's not do anything, right? Those are very
Yeah.
atypical people, right? Everyone's doing as far as that in my life, your life, and we have a pretty big a broad network of people we know really are taking this seriously. But now, like you said, there is inadvertent blame being blamed on
Yeah.
those who aren't vaccinated, being blamed on the pharmaceutical companies because it's showing that you're going to need a 6 month, 9 month, 12 month,
Yeah.
14 month, booster shots. They don't know yet, right? I mean, I'm making that that's
Yeah.
embellished, but you know what I'm saying is that
Yes.
someone's looking for someone to blame, and the problem is our leaders are now doing that as well. They're now blaming the unvaccinated population,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of the stuff, again, is sensationalized in the media. You know, things are tripling, they're quadrupling. It went from 12 to 24. That type of thing, where the numbers, you don't hear numbers, and that's part of the media hype. And yeah, I can go on and on and
Yeah.
on about the spin doctors that are going on.
Oof, it's been
It's
crazy.
real. It's there. Things were predicted to increase. The entire scientific community knew that it was going to increase. We knew there was going to be variants. Stay safe. Continue.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure you as well. I didn't stop wearing masks. I didn't
Nope.
stop social distancing. Yes, I started seeing more people because I felt more safe, but I always have a mask in my pocket, always putting it on when I need it, always kind of keeping apart from most people except for my close bubble,
Yeah.
and that's how we stay safe, right?
Absolutely.
Not someone telling me or you, or what, you need to do this X, Y, and Z.
Yes. I want to address Christina has written in and said, "Hey, Miss Shannon and Miss Nancy, my friend, he lives in California and he got to go back to work yesterday. And have we had our vaccines yet? And that going back to the card studio, that would make their anxiety go away." So I just want to say, I have said to people, I think that it's super personal. I don't ever go up to somebody and go, "Have you had your vaccines yet?" Because I feel like that's akin to saying, "How much money do you have in your bank account? And what were the results of your last blood work?" They're just not things
Right.
they're not the things that I would ask, right? But I have been I made the decision because we do this show and we're public about a lot of things, that I came forward a while back and said that my entire family, my child and I, my husband and I, all got our vaccines, and we got both of our vaccines. We're fully vaccinated, but I won't ask anybody else to disclose that on the program. That's entirely up to anybody who's on the program. But I won't be asking them because I think it's a personal, it's your medical stuff. So I'm not asking that. And I love that your friend in California went back to work. Look at Vince. Vince is in his office, but Vince doesn't live in Los Angeles. And Vince is in an office where I think you have other people there now.
Nobody's here.
Yeah.
It's
Do
my
you
own
have
office.
other people in your office though now, or just you still?
There are people in the office, but I don't leave my den very often.
There you go. And I have been going back to the office. I've been back in the office. I think I've been there 5 times in the last 2 weeks. But it is not our plan to go back into the studio just yet. We're looking at somewhere mid-September to be back in the studio. But I don't want you to feel anxious about that. However, I do want you to know that in Los Angeles, it is different than anywhere else in the world. We have different rules in Los Angeles County for I mean, honestly, I think one of the hardest things for me this year was that, we were house arrest, as somebody says, welcome to virtual house arrest.
Right.
And we had a teenager who was having his senior year of high school. And anytime I would feel the anxiety of he's not getting to do, I would go, but they're all that way. And then we have a very dear friend, Vince, who lives on the East Coast, who also had a son who was a senior in high school.
Right.
He got to go to his homecoming game. He got to play football. He got to be in the play. He got to go to his prom. And I would say, "Aren't you freaking out?" And she would go, "No, we're doing that." So it was the tale of two cities, literally.
Right.
But they don't allow for that here in Los Angeles. And guess what? I'm happy that Los Angeles has been more careful. I want to say, I don't want to say her name, but a dear friend of this show, a big autism mom in the Los Angeles area, is in.
Oop, lost you.
a thought, but you know, she's here in Los Angeles. It's different here. So we're not back in the studio, but we have a plan to go back to the studio. And Vince, you've been there pretty much throughout.
Yes. Well, my office was empty. I mean, no one was here for a very long time, for I think 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And so I roamed the hallways all by myself, which was actually, it was safe because no one was here, and plus it got me away from my family of four. We didn't have enough room for four computers, and
Yeah.
for, I had two college students at, at the time, and working wife, and we just didn't have that much bandwidth nor computer. So I was like, I'll go to work,
Yeah.
but it was lonely. I will
Well,
say that.
yes. And then I was just describing to somebody the other day that at the height of the pandemic, I'm in a room downstairs. My son was in a room directly above me, online, taking his online senior year. And we had set up my husband in the upstairs bathroom as a booth because he's a voiceover actor. So he'd be doing the voices to some like horrible game where he's playing a demon. My son would be doing physics and I would be doing the show down here, and we'd be stretching our internet to the length of what it could go to.
Right.
But we made it work, right? But we were talking about building something in the backyard because there wasn't enough space. So good on you that you had a space to go to.
Autism-live shed.
Yes, instead of a she shed. There we go. It's kind of what I've created in this little room. In any case, we're out of time. Thanks, Vince, for all your wise words. We keep breathing. We keep breathing and taking care of ourselves. Ted Lasso says, be like a goldfish. I'm going to say to everybody, be like Simone Biles. Prioritize your mental health. That's the ticket. Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.